Hi, everyone, and welcome to another, for us anyway, Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I'm one of your two hosts, Noor Kyle.
And I'm the other one of your two hosts, Mushtaq Ali.
Yeah, all right. So, we always have to do our spiel first. Thank you, everyone who has heard this a million times. So, if you are watching on YouTube, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You're joining us during our recording. We have wonderful people here who I've known for quite some time who don't get to show up very often. We have friends that we enjoy spending time with every single week. We have newcomers. This is an exciting evening. And we have a wonderful topic. We're going to be talking about love. But, of course, we have to do the whole like, comment, subscribe thing. Any of those would benefit us greatly and endear you to us. What's that?
You're carrying it over from last week in that you can subscribe to our channel for absolutely nothing, for free. And as a special added gift, if you subscribe to our channel, something wonderful will happen.
There you go. Something wonderful
will happen.
You'll have to find that out, whatever that is. Anything we need to share for news? The virtual retreat is coming up this fall, as usual, and I will be developing exact dates on that, and I wanted to give everyone a heads up sooner rather than later that once annually we do a virtual retreat in which we have a variety of practices that we do together. It is basically free. You can offer a donation. That definitely helps us out. But it is meant to be something that we, as a community, get the opportunity to do together. So more information will be forthcoming on that. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
All right. So love. What do we want to say about that tonight, Mushtaq?
I feel like going into the what did they call him? The important cleric. True love, that guy. Nobody gets the reference.
No, I'm sorry. I don't get it either.
Princess Bride. Barbarians. That's right, the Princess Bride. So the topic tonight is love. What do we want to say about love? First of all, it's probably not what you think it is. People get very confused about this. I remember I saw the play done from the poem, The Ballad of Reading Gaol by, I just spaced his name, famous poet.
Isn't it Oscar Wilde?
Oscar Wilde, yes, thank you. Yes. That's why we keep you around, James.
Nancy chimed in too, so you're both awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, so Oscar Wilde was thrown into prison for being gay and having an affair with the son of the Marquis de Queensberry. Yes, that Marquis de Queensberry, the one who invented the rules for modern boxing, which tells you something about him. In any way, it was turned into a play, and throughout the play, there is a refrain that happens, and the refrain is there is this one guy who's going to be hung, and the refrain is, he killed her because he loved her. And I mean, I saw this play in college, and that refrain still sticks with me because it was so incongruent. And yet it is so common in certain ways. So we're going to put forth some ideas to you. These ideas are, some of them are not going to be popular. Some of them are going to be anathema. A couple of them might get the people with pitchforks after us. And that's okay, because you can't find us. We're hiding. in a cave. So first, love is behavior. Love is not an emotion. Love is not a feeling. Love is not a fluttery thing in your belly. Love is behavior. And if you think it's anything other than that, you may have missed a point. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by love is behavior? Don't everybody chime in at once.
Yeah, we'll open up that up. We'll open that up to you guys. What do you guys think?
I totally agree. Love is behavior. Love is dedication to the other. Love is seeing beyond yourself to actually see the other and give them what they need, not what you want to be for them. Like, love is selfless in the sense you really see the other person objectively. Yeah, so that's part of it.
That's great, James. Thank you. Yeah.
And you ain't wrong.
Mm.
Yeah, as we said in our preview for this talk, it's a word that gets thrown around really easily by poets, everyday people, and it's also watered down both through this unthinking use and also through these clerical interpretations, right? People trying to put it in a box about what it is and how it works and who it's appropriate for and all of that. And we are very clear on this fact that it has much more to do with this subject to subject relating that we're always talking about. That's an absolutely critical piece to this. And that's why we say that love is behavior. Shri.
Love is a multifaceted gem, and one gem is that love is inconvenient.
It often is.
You to behave when it's inconvenient in, as James says, that it's about the other, and you have to actually balance that need for yourself and the need for the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like love as a gem, even though that's a metaphor. We like metaphors here.
Yeah. The poets are not wrong per se, even with all of their words.
And the poets try.
They try to get at this thing. Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean,
It
Rumi
is.
spent 6 volumes trying to get at this thing and never quite made it. Got close.
Yeah.
Shakespeare tried really hard to get at it. Not in his plays, but in his sonnets. You all know Shakespeare's sonnets, right?
Yeah.
Now, okay, I'm gonna recite for you Shakespeare's 116th sonnet, which I also.
Yeah, it's lovely. And James has his hand up. Is that okay?
James, talk to me.
Oh, I don't know what this says about me, but I think it's easier to define what love isn't. And I could bang on forever about what love isn't. It's not infatuation. It's not looking to the other person to complete you, to make you comfortable. It's not the romanticized product of a million movies.
Yeah. You could do that, but you probably would not live long enough to finish the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only problem with that one. So
Ah.
let me give you Shakespeare's attempt at it, just
Yes.
because we might as well. He said, "Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks upon tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved." I thought that was a journeyman-like attempt.
I like that one because it reminds me of a little bit of Khalil Gibran's. He has a piece, I forget what it's called, but I'll try and share it with you guys, where he talks about what marriage is, I think, and he talks about love as being the space between two pillars. Do you guys know what I'm referring to? Which one?
I don't know off the top of my head, but
yeah.
Okay, I'll
if
find
you
it.
find it, yeah, I would love if you might even like to read it yourself for us.
Oh, I'll look it up right now.
Sure.
It's in the Prophet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nancy, I see you unmuted.
yes, Nancy.
Yeah, yes. There was something I was wondering about, which is there still something about, I don't know, personality fit or something? I mean, there are reasons why particular people get more involved with each other.
Yeah, but that probably is not germane to the conversation.
Talking about compatibility.
Yeah, compatibility. Yeah, Cherie says love is a long game, and boy, that's the truth. The longer, the better. So we start with the idea that love is behavior. And that's a harsh one, because a whole lot of people who say to somebody, "I love you," their behavior does not match with that. It's incongruent. And this goes from big things like people who say to their children, "I love you," and then beat them and torture them, to couples where, while the words are there, the actions are just not quite there.
Yeah, or it's used as an in general, you're talking about using the words as an excuse for bad to mediocre behavior.
Yeah, or indifferent behavior.
Yeah.
Self-directed behavior. The thing about love is that it can take you outside of yourself. As children don't love. I don't care if you think that the cute baby likes you or that your kids like you. You cannot really love without a mature brain. And so children can't love, teenagers can't love, young adults oftentimes can't love. It takes real maturity to actually love. You can be infatuated. You can be hormonal. And that's what most people mistake for love.
Chemically attached. I mean, that covers a lot of bases saying that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you meet somebody and there is that chemistry, it sets it off, and that goes for a while, and you are convinced that you love this person, and then one day your body develops the natural intolerance to the chemical, And the chemical is, help me out, Nora.
Well, are you talking about oxytocin? Or are you talking
Oxytocin,
about
yes.
dopamine?
Yeah,
Both?
dopamine is part of it too, but it starts with the oxytocin.
Yeah.
And it can be, I remember the first time this happened to me. I was young. I met a girl. We fell in love. We were completely involved with each other for about 16 months. I thought that I loved her. And then one morning I woke up and I looked at her and I said to myself, who the hell is this person in my bed with me? And I realized that I actually didn't like her all that much. The oxytocin wore off, the receptors couldn't handle anymore, and my brain chemistry switched. And that's since then I was shocked and startled by this, because if you had asked me the day before, she could have walked on water. But she wasn't that pleasant a person, actually. She was nice, but we didn't have that much in common, except for hormones. Fortunately, they were wearing off on her too around the same time, and we were able to amicably carry on, as it were. But
Part ways.
yeah, we actually remained friends. It's just that we realized that we didn't like each other that much.
Not romantically. Yeah.
Not romantically. Yeah, romantic love is mostly hormones. So for me, since then, it's always been, how are you going to feel with this person after 16 months, 18 months, 2 years? When the chemicals wear off, what's going to be left? And that tells you something.
And this touches on a little bit, at least tangentially, what Nancy was talking about in terms of compatibility. Like, do you like the person? Do you feel like you can respect them and appreciate them truly? But it also goes deeper than that. Even that's not love per se, but it allows for a sustainable bond for sure to be compatible. But like I said, this is something that goes beyond just what do I get out of it. And I noticed that Osama had his hand up.
Yes, Osama.
Quick question. It's interesting that you mentioned a mature brain as a prerequisite, where most of the time poets and writers and other people describing it, it's the seat for it is from the heart. I would love to hear a little bit more about that perspective as far as the brain role in it. And also would love to hear, outside of what love is outside of the external relationship as somebody outside or society or whatnot, what is it? Does it have a place outside of that, or is it only in relationship? Doesn't matter whether it's outside or internal.
Let's start with that. Love always has relationship. There is always lover and beloved. It doesn't have to be your husband or wife, boyfriend or girlfriend. I mean, think of Rumi and Shams. They had a powerful love between them. And we aren't going to get into whether or not they were gay. I don't care. The love was there, and you know that especially if you read the Divani Shamsi Tabriz. The quote in our blurb today was actually from the Divani Shams. I'm drunk and you're crazy. Who's going to take us home? I love that poem. That's one of my favorite poems.
And when we're ready, Layla has found the the poem from the prophet on love and marriage. But
So
yeah.
the thing about love is that it is the model of relating to the other. It allows, it is the fundamental relationship to the other as subject. And yes, you can lose yourself in that. You can have your ego totally effaced in your relationship to the other. I could experience fana fi nur, and may have once or twice, but that in itself is not enough for me to call it love. You can feel anything you want, and it ain't love. You can have all of the warm fuzzies. You can have all of the heart feelings. Mostly, I think a lot of the talking about heart is bullshit. I'm sorry, but this is my observation. I remember years ago, Carlos Castaneda wrote the Don Juan novels. They're novels. They aren't anything other than that. And they talked about a path with the heart. And everybody loved that. They went, oh yeah, path with the heart. I must find the path with the heart. And they didn't realize that the phrase a path with a heart had no meaning. None, zero, zip. It could mean anything to anybody. It was just something that you could project your internal stuff onto.
Well, that's the thing about the word heart, right? I think that people understand this term in a number of different ways. And I think that often the way that they interpret it has as Mushtaq's saying, it doesn't have much substance to it. It has this superficiality of the push and pull of emotionality. And emotions serve a purpose, but they are not, they are guides. I don't think they are necessarily meant to be the things that determine the choices that we make. They are bits of feedback, and we have to put them in context.
And sometimes they're the rewards for the choices we make.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's that too. Yes.
Yeah. You know, I get up in the morning, I get up early. And the first thing I do is I make myself a cup of coffee and I make Noor a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bring the tea in. And even if she's asleep, I get warm fuzzies from making her tea.
Yeah.
And that's the reward for literally for putting her needs up there.
Yeah. So it is a bit of feedback for you. It gives you a sense of satisfaction, a sense of a purpose fulfilled, right?
Yeah. And that's where the behavior thing comes in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could say, oh, Noor, I love you. I love you more than the sky. I love you more than the crashing waves. And then not do crap, you know, not make you tea, not cook you a wonderful meal, not think of you when I am making choices.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things. And none of that is love. Love is going, I need to think about this choice. I wonder how it will affect Noor.
Yep. Yeah. And I do the same thing. I think we're always trying to find ways to be considerate of one another, to include one another, to think of the other before making any decisions. I mean, within reason, right?
Yeah.
And when we do things that bring the other joy, there's a feedback loop in that, which I think is more the heart's role in this, is to provide feedback and to give guidance in that way. But ultimately, we don't want to be ruled in that way.
Say a little bit more about that, because that's important.
Yeah. Well, we do know that from, at least from the Gurdjieff perspective, right, we have 3 centers. and they are compartmentalized as the body, the heart, the mind. They're considered three brains. I think really what I'd like to bring to the table is that these are not separate. These are all something that needs to be considered as unified. And so I actually, from that point of view, think that centering anything in the heart or the brain or the body is a little bit misguided. And we really have to clarify more along the lines of, for me at least, ego in essence, right? Can we take the data that comes in through our senses, through the body? Can we take the data that we experience through our emotions, the feedback that we get from that lens? Can we take the data that we get from our brain, which works at interpreting and giving meaning to things and clarifying the inputs? Can we take all of that together and come up with a sense of direction that allows us to move from a place of including the other instead of being so self-focused? And I think that, as you were saying, Osama, this doesn't just include our partners, our children, our families, our neighborhood. It extends to bigger and bigger spheres of relationship. And love is a part of that. If love is behavior, and we are always engaging in quote unquote behavior, right? Are we demonstrating love in our behavior to these realms that we have a bit of influence over? Whether that's a public park, you know, that's kind of an entity unto itself. Do we show love to that public park? Do we show love to our pet, to our home,
To our plants.
to our plants? Yes. Layla and I and Mushtaq, we are all about showing love to our plants. Yes.
Gotten out of control.
Too much love.
Definitely not.
We only have 2 plants, but we dote on them.
Yes. Yeah. So I hope, I don't know if you want to expand on what you were thinking on those lines of thought, Osama, but I hope that gives a little bit of context.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very helpful. Yeah, when I wrote it in the chat, but when I meant by heart is not the emotion and the feelings and all of that, but that seat of consciousness, which is that center of the great intellect, capital I.
Yeah.
Right. That essence.
Right.
Where things and behaviors may not be reasonable, right? That's the I'm drunk and I'm crazy, all of that. Reason, it just cannot, it doesn't, it's like clear water or like river water and ocean water. There's a barrier right there.
Yeah.
So that maybe that which I'm still exploring, I don't really know for sure. It's the things that I'm experiencing a little bit of, the things that I'm reading of, the things that I'm hearing as I'm experiencing other people from that state of subject to subject. What is that really? How can I experience that subject to subject? Okay, so now I gotta go in and know subject, and then know subject over there, and it becomes that relationship between
Yeah,
the sun and the
that's where
moon
the
and all
heart
of that.
really comes in.
Mm,
Yeah. When I think of the heart, I think of the ability to experience empathy for the other. And without empathy, there is not love. And empathy comes from the heart, not from the intellectual center, but from the emotional center.
Mm.
Empathy is being able to feel with the other, to experience the other as subject, as subjectivity, and to have that matter. And when you do that, you are not necessarily rational in your behavior in the logical sense. You will do things illogical. Like I will act to protect Kyle, even if it is dangerous or detrimental to me. That's not logical.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
But that's the reality, and we know that. Yeah, so
Along those lines, it reminds me that love is also privilege because it gives you power and influence. Well, while we're talking, I think I agree. Love is an action. That feedback loop can be addictive, especially when you're young, or when it's the beginning, when the chemicals are there to try and help it along. But when someone, so from a young age, I learned that love is the admiration of another's sense of life. So in that framework, if I admire someone, I put their opinions first, perhaps. Or maybe I take them seriously. They're influential over me. Giving someone that opportunity, I don't want to be, misled or influenced poorly by someone who is misguided in their understanding or their vision of love.
yeah.
Another
So
way,
the way that you can do that is to be clear and well guided in your vision of love.
true, yes, knowing
This is
oneself.
not a complex problem. This is a simple problem with a simple solution.
Well, so for example, I was growing up as my parents are conservative Muslims, Sunni Muslims, and very much motivated by levels of heaven to please Allah, defined as which level you want to get into to secure not being in hellfire for eternity. And I would wonder why we're not motivated out of a love for humanity. That aspect did not translate well into how we were taught about our religion.
Yeah, well, your parents are one thing, but for that, you need to listen to Rabia al-Basri, who said,
Yeah.
if I want paradise, deny me paradise. If I act from fear of hell, send me to hell. The only thing that matters to me is that I love you, speaking to God. That's a more mature love. I don't mean to be rude, but I doubt that your parents know much about love from everything that you've told me about them and from what I've heard from Noor. They have never learned to focus on other than their own needs.
When it comes to being religiously motivated, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I see what you were saying, Layla, about there being this quality of vulnerability to love. I think that's probably how I would frame it, rather than it necessarily being a matter of power, because one thing we should emphasize in this is that part of love is being able to hold your own without getting lost, without just being sucked into the vortex of, as you were saying, Mushtaq, Fanafi, insert partner's name here. That means like annihilating yourself in the beloved, this human beloved. Whether that's, a person, a food, a pet, a plant.
To the point of he killed her because he loved her.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
exciting.
So this kind of,
This may sound harsh, but most of what passes for love in the world isn't.
that's what we're getting at. This sense of it needing to include, I think I should say this point blank, it has to include yourself as well.
And it
So
has
that, yeah,
you
it's
and
not just external.
yeah. There is a maturation process that allows for this. And in some ways, that's a major part of the work, is putting yourself through this maturation process. And a mature human doesn't fall for that shit. They just don't.
Did you get something you wanted to add, Layla?
This is a great segue to the poem, which
Ooh.
celebrates individuality. Yeah, if I could read,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah, tell me.
Please. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
What do I do? Yeah.
So it says, love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like
Yeah, spot on. Thank you, Layla. Yeah. Osama gives a heart. Heart. As does James. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this speaks to that power of holding on to your own. I'm saying selfhood, and I want to be careful about that because I know we also talk about not getting too caught up in the self, because that is also a trap, right?
Yeah.
But we need to have this healthy sense of the ego as a foundation for everything that comes into relationship, everything that involves a dynamic with the other. Do we have a healthy sense of foundation that allows us to we each of us has a right to exist, right? To eat food, to breathe air, to take up space. Every person gets their share. Do we have a sense of embracing that for ourselves, and can we include that in our understanding of love as behavior?
James has his hand up.
Yeah, James.
Well, what I'm sort of fumbling towards is okay, we have to perform an act from our actual selves, not our illusions, from our real foundation. But if
That
our
would
life is just obsessed with that, but if our life just is obsessed with that, if it doesn't extend in love towards another, it becomes another self-obsession. In fact, it sort of only goes halfway to what potential can do, until potential emerges into action. So I'm probably just repeating what everyone's already said anyhow. But the two need each other. Like potential, self-love needs other. Self-love is an accurate thing. It's not self-obsession or hidden self-loathing. It should be an accurate assessment, willing to feel everything that's involved in assessing and experiencing yourself. But then it has to extend beyond yourself as well. Otherwise, it's ultimately stagnant.
Absolutely true.
You make such a good point, James. And an image that came to me as I was speaking is the fact that, we have this mirror effect, right? Where it is not about focusing on the self without including the other It is not focusing on the other without including the self. There has to be this mirroring. And it's not a dual thing, and it's not an exclusionary thing.
Well,
Yeah.
in another example of not love is the self-loathing, self-abnegating submission to another person
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
catering to them and calling that love and devotion. Da 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 da. That's not love.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. The thing to remember is that what you describe, being in that self-love, a psychopath can do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A psychopath has no problem with self-love. A psychopath can't connect with the other as subject.
Mm.
That's the big difference. And I'm saying that a mature human being, somebody
Mm.
who has actually achieved true spiritual maturity, will connect to the other as subject in the
And that's
way
why
that,
the psychopath. Oh,
yeah,
that's why the psychopath stagnates.
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Nancy, you had a thought? Sorry, James. Did you
I've
have-
finished ranting. Let someone else talk.
Well, two things if possible, but one of them is it that maybe a lot of people are uncomfortable with love and therefore they put obstacles in the way of other people?
Oh, sure. To actually experience the other as subject can be profoundly uncomfortable, because it means that you have to admit to yourself that somebody's feelings besides yours matter.
No, I'm talking about a different thing, that seeing somebody else love can make third parties uncomfortable, so they get in the way.
Oh, I don't know. That's
As in jealousy?
As in jealousy, or
Or
as in, let's say, political or religious movements that interfere with love.
I'm not making the connection. Help me out.
Okay. In a general sort of way, if love is theoretically only permitted between certain kinds of people, then that would be blocking off potential love.
Oh yeah, but I don't think I have ever run across a organized religion that produced adults. So
That's pretty harsh.
yeah, I mean, not inaccurate.
We need a disorganized religion.
Yeah, we're working on that. I mean, we're about as disorganized as you can get.
I mean, adults work in progress, but yeah. Yeah, I think one thing I would consider in that is that one thing about this is that love happens even in the face of massive obstacles.
Mhm.
It happens regardless. It may not be able to be manifested in certain ways as a result of constrictions on the way it can be manifested and expressed. But if, not to be too corny about it, but it's a force that cannot be stopped.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Yeah, politics, religion, they tend to get in the way of love, which is an unpopular point of view in some ways, but I think I could make an argument for it.
On a practical level, yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't mean people within those groups can't love, but I would say that it's difficult sometimes. I mean, and what Layla was describing, the idea of, one, getting to paradise, two, getting the best parts of paradise, getting the extra rewards. I used to hear that all the time at the masjid. It's like, Imam, what can I do to receive extra rewards from Allah? And it's like, oh, donate more money. But I never heard a single person ask, what can I do so that my beloved will receive all of the possible rewards from Allah? Nobody ever asked that.
Layla gives a clap for that. Yeah. I mean, that's quite a question.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody asked, is there anything that I can do to help my beloved achieve paradise? My best answer is, take her to dinner. So what are you guys thinking? Let's hear from some people who ain't talked yet. Who wants to throw rocks? Yes, Brian.
Nord mentioned how the idea or word love tends to get watered down. And I think one of those ways that particularly stands out to me that I find rather annoying is when I see it on shirts. Yeah, it seems like everyone's wearing shirts that just say love on them. And it's like, to me, an example of how they just use the word, but contributes to it being watered down and misunderstanding.
Yeah. There was a time when having a shirt that said love on it was radical. Right around the mid 60s. That was a radical act. But you're right, it's gotten totally watered down. It doesn't mean anything.
And then
And-
another actually,
Go ahead, please.
just another question I had is there was a Goethe quote that I always found kind of strange, and which said, "Love without knowledge is demonic." And
Yeah.
I was curious if you could maybe comment on that.
That is the guy who went around the chorus. He killed her because he loved her. That's where you are lost in an emotion which you think is love, and you will lash out at the object of your love if they don't give you what you want or what you think you deserve, or if they don't return the feeling that you think they should be returning. That's demonic. I mean, think about all the stalkers in the world. You know, if you talk to any good stalker, and I know this because I've talked to a few, they'll tell you, I love her so much, or I love him so much. You know, and I know that they love me. How do you know that? I just know it. Right? That's demonic. And that means that that person has zero self-knowledge and zero knowledge of the other person, and no connection to the other person as subject.
I mean, this is how crimes of passion come to be too.
Yeah.
Quote
And
unquote.
Layla made an observation here.
Layla says, or being motivated by a fear of losing someone or their love.
Yeah, which means you never had it in the first place. And James makes the observation that lovers may be difficult to control, and it's true.
In a different sort of way, in a not necessarily murderous crimes of passion sort of way.
No,
Yeah.
no,
No, I know that's not what you meant.
That was going back to much earlier in the conversation.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Rather
yeah,
it's monitoring by religion and politics.
right.
Yeah, that's true. If you are willing to act for the benefit of the beloved, that's a problem for the people who want to control you. Levita, do you have any thoughts? she just appears magically. I love that.
Always. I was trying to process what y'all were saying, and what comes to mind is that there's two sides to love, is the giving and the receiving. And if you have a feeling of love, but there's no action behind it, it's not received by the recipient. It's not received by the beloved at all. If you perform a loving type action without the feeling of love, it's kind of ersatz, and people can tell.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a verb. It's not a noun or an adverb. Like, it involves having to actually do something. I've been around people who will say, "Oh, I love you," but when you say pass the salt, they go, "Oh, I'm busy."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know. And I'll never forget. I was at somebody's house once, and we were talking about, when you lose people you care about because they die, and they were talking about how people go to funerals and they go, "If there's anything you need, anything at all." And what does that mean? Absolutely nothing. 90% of the time, if I say to somebody, I really could use if you would do X, and it's something within their purview that they either do for a living, offer to pay them, they say, never do it. So the act, so the person who was telling me, she was Jewish, and she said, we have a saying, why can't you love somebody while you wash the dishes? Why can't you pray while you wash the dishes? While you're doing something. So I was just thinking about all of that, along with, what you guys were talking about. But yeah, it's this precious little of the verb.
Yeah. And the verb is the word. Like the bird is the word, the verb is the word.
I thought Greece was the word.
And that brings up a point we have not touched on, is the idea of receiving love, which is, that's a whole nother talk. But the ability to receive love from your beloved, to be the beloved rather than the lover, is a whole art in and of itself.
Yeah, we actually touched on that, you and I, Mushtaq, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I, from time to time, given, being a woman, there are moments where I'm like, don't do things for me because it makes me feel, quote unquote, infantilized, or, whatever, benevolent sexism. But then I realized sometimes I need to check my attitude on that, because that is him doing his best to demonstrate to me that he's thinking of me when he does things that might be difficult for me, or that he's able to do in a given moment and I haven't thought of it yet, and he goes ahead and does it for me. Like, if I can just chillax and allow things to be as they are without the stories that I project onto them, then I'm able to receive the love that he's expressing through the things that he does, as opposed to shutting it down. And he has to do the same thing for me. Like, there have been moments where I will say, let me do this for you.
Yeah. And I have to go,
yeah, just as I do. Yeah. And it's not about overstepping boundaries or anything of that nature. It's just a matter of allowing the way that we interpret these things, the stories that we project onto these activities, to fall away and just be with what is, which is the expression of care, the expression of love, the behavior of love.
yeah.
And if a moment arises where it is better for me to do the thing, if I state that clearly and he respects that, which he does, that's another expression of love. To be attuned to each other in that way helps a lot.
Yeah, that actually means you're experiencing each other as subject.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. Cherie, you've been awfully quiet.
I was thinking about the aspect of kindness has come into that interaction that Nora is speaking of, because you're being kind to yourself and empathic and kind to the other. And I was just doing that with my mother last night. She made me a whole lot of food, as my mother does, without asking, and smothers me with food. And I just take it all and I go, thanks, Mum. That's so kind of you. That's so nice. You know, can I eat it all? Well, I share it around as much as possible. But that's her act of love to me. And for me to be loving to her is to actually receive it with grace, instead of chastising her for overcooking yet again. Yet again, it's another vat of something or multiple containers of whatever. And I'm just thinking she's doing her best. And when her other children don't accept that, it all kind of gets channeled back to me. Oh, thanks, Mum. That's really thoughtful. And I'm thinking there will come a day when that won't happen.
Right.
So for her, you know, it's a joy. And I actually really enjoy watching her face, knowing that I've received it with that grace, with real, genuine love for her. And it is those expressions between parents can drive you potty, you know, you just potty. Yeah, that's they really do. They are trying to think of ways that they can continue to care for you even when you're well into adulthood, and you think that's okay. And so that love is behavior. We were talking about that as well in the last few days. You know, she said, how do you know? How do you know I need that? And it's just that widening of that awareness towards her and noticing that that's part of our practice. You know, the noticing, it can be just one word, just one little throwaway line, and we keep going. But I've made it as part of my practice, is that I can hear she needs a certain thing, and I will try and fulfill it for her and not make her feel stupid. That's her word. I feel so stupid when she got scammed, or she doesn't understand the emails that are coming through. And she's not an idiot, but it is there's a difficulty there, and so that's no problem. So I just think that this has been a lovely talk, to be able to look at all the expressions of love and the receiving part with that grace and kindness, and you're just being the expression of love.
Yeah, and that reminds me that there's a second part to love is behavior, which is love is behavior and parents are practice.
That's the takeaway for the talk. Yeah, parents are practice.
Yeah.
So,
I think
Julia, we have saved
feel
the
that.
best for last here.
Well, Levita has her hand up. I would love to hear from Julia too, if they're up for sharing too.
Yeah, but let's see what Levita has to say, and that will give Julia's heart a chance to slow down a little bit.
Julia is amused.
I was thinking about what you said about receiving it when you were talking, Nora, about, you know, Mushtaq bringing you a cup of coffee or something like that.
Tea, yeah.
And I had somebody actually do a very in the moment lesson to me on that. And because I'm not good at accepting. And the lesson taught me that the receiving of love is also a gift to your lover.
Yes.
It is.
Showing you
Yeah.
appreciation that you see and acknowledge the love that you've been given. And I'd also add to your thing, Mushtaq, that children are practiced too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like I am 1,000 times more patient now than I was when I started having my children. Otherwise, I'd be getting out of prison about now.
Yeah, the fact that any of us made it to adulthood is a miracle. I mean, I think about
Yes.
me as a kid, and I would not have blamed my mother for tying me up in a sack and throwing me off a bridge.
Yeah, it's amazing how smart your parents get as you get older. It's like
Yeah.
you get older and you look back and you go, why didn't they just kill me?
Spared themselves the trouble long ago. Yes.
Yeah. So, but yes, it was a very, because basically what the person did was they mirrored to me. They did something nice to me, and then I went, oh well, oh, okay, thank you. And she just mirrored it back at me, and I went, oh, I'm a jerk. Oh my God.
That was the gist of my conversation with Mushtaq yesterday. Was I need to stop being mean to you and just let you do the thing that you want to do for me.
But isn't it true that sometimes, and sometimes women are guilty of this, men are too, but well, they say they love me, but they never do anything nice. And it's those little things like, oh, when I wake up in the morning, there's a cup of tea, hot, next to the bed, which meant they had to be paying attention to where I was in my sleep cycle, that it was still hot, not cold, not lukewarm. And that's what a lot of times caregivers do. They notice those little things that you need that make your life a little bit smoother. Because let's face it, we can't remove all the obstacles from one another's lives. So, but yeah, but like Mushtaq said, that's a receiving of it is a whole nother video. You could do a whole week of that.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I'm very lucky that I don't have any of the typical spouse complaints about like, oh, he doesn't do anything for me, he doesn't get me flowers. I don't have to worry about any of that. I think that this is me bragging a little bit, like I am blessed. I am blessed, and I know that. Yeah, just drink it in, Mushtaq. Yes. But I think that we are both always trying to notice those little ways to help each other, and we don't even mention them. I'm sure there are many between the two of us that we don't even realize we're calculating out for each other. And it doesn't need to be, those things don't need to be revealed. That's part of the magic.
Yeah.
I saw a video once. I saw two separate videos, and it's a couple sitting together. They're just with their friends, and the woman leans over because something falls on the floor. She reaches down. When she leans over, the man she's with, puts his hand over the corner of the table. So when she comes up, she won't hit her head. Now, in one video, she doesn't notice it. The other one, they've been together a really long time. She's like tapping his hand, like, I'm up. You can move your hand. And it was just like, and the person didn't even stop talking. They just did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they got up, they just handed him a tissue. It was like he was aware of her, even though he was talking to somebody else. So it's a small thing, but it, like, when you watch it happen in real time, it's like, then you're looking at yours going, like,
yeah.
oh, I banged my head.
Yep. That is, I mean, Thank you for that, Lavita, because that sounds really cool. Shri, yeah, did you have a thought?
Add to that, I had to help my husband because he gives me a drink at 5:30 a.m. every morning. And part of my love for him is not to chide him that it's so early, but I also change it. I used to have coffee and I decided I'm not going to have coffee first thing. I want hot water. So just sometimes you have to give them a little help, because he said, I don't know what you want to drink. I said, well, I'd like hot water. So we actually have that communication instead of thinking, I wonder if he notices. That's never going to happen. So sometimes you've got to give him a little bit of a nudge just in that way, so he realizes, oh, I prefer if it's hot water. And I ask him nicely. So sometimes I give the suggestions instead of waiting for something to happen and hoping he'll notice.
Yeah. That is important too, but doing it in a way that allows the behavior to blossom, but in a way that's mutually satisfying. Yeah. Yeah, like we have this routine with my tea where I rotate between 3 different tea flavors, and he figured out that I want a different one each day. So we rotate. I don't have to think about it. He doesn't have to think about it. Everybody gets what they want. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Julia, are you now relaxed and feeling comfortable talking with us?
Sure, my goodness. I don't honestly have much to add. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It makes me think so much about what bell hooks says about love, and somebody else talking about how love is the willingness to extend yourself to like to support like your own spiritual growth or somebody else's spiritual growth. And always like every time I read that and hear that and reads like the list of like several qualities that she lists out, it just hits me over again. And I'm like, whoa, that's so important. And this is also making me realize I want to take some notes on the conversation and maybe like go grab those quotes and put them someplace I can like easily refer to.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to share Bell Hooks quotes on the forum after that you love, I think that would be great for everyone too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I don't know this person.
I love her work, but it's been a while since I've delved into it, so I would love a revisit.
I have no idea about her work, so you can help me expand my horizons.
Yay! Yeah. Yes. Excellent, Julia. Thank you.
And that's probably it.
Yeah, I guess it's time to wrap up, everyone. But thank you for the company, everyone. I guess we can go to Brady Bunch mode now, right?
As a matter of fact, are in Brady.
Wonderful. Okay. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for helping us dig deeper into this topic. We have, I think, Wael, who is not here, unfortunately, to thank for the topic this week.
Yeah,
So,
this is all Wael's fault.
shout out to him, and hopefully he enjoyed the results of his encouraging. And hopefully you all did too, and you all made such beautiful contributions. Thank you.
Yeah, these talks would not be the same if it was just Nora and I sitting here yammering at you.
Yeah.
Conversation that makes this work. It's your input. Without that, this is just like everybody else's.
Yeah.
But
So
we work on the idea that y'all are as smart as we are. So we are going to surf on your own intelligence.
you can pull us along on all y'all's coattails. Yeah. All right. So let's wave to each other and
Bye,
wave to
folks.
everybody watching on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.